What's going on, everyone? Today we're back with another Warrior recap and discussion, this time covering episodes 6 and 7. If you're a returning viewer, you know the deal. If you're new here, here's what we do. I'm going to cover the major characters and their storylines over the past 2 episodes, and Damon will then jump in with discussion points. Alright, no time to waste, let's get right into it, starting with the Hopway. For the past 2 episodes, the prominent Hopway storylines have included Assam, Youngjun, and Father Jun. The Hopway began episode 6 at an ice factory with Mai Ling and Lee Yong. This is now the start of their new partnership, where the Longzi provide a safe space for printing, and they split the money going forward with the Hopway. Youngjun is pissed about the deal, but he has no choice but to go with it. Father Jun is now back in the game, and he's concerned that the deal with Mai Ling will go south at some point. The OG has a plan though. He knows some German goons from way back who are sitting on a bunch of silver. Father Jun wants to trade them fake chop for silver at 3 times the going rate. Yes, the Hopway would be paying a premium, but they would be getting something with real value in return. So Father Jun, Youngjun, and Assam end up heading east to meet the Germans, and the leader is this savage named Lucas, who is just blowing a ton of coke. See, fentanyl wasn't a thing back then, so cocaine was for everyone. Just kidding. Anyways, the Germans use strictly Chinese labor to mine the silver, which obviously strikes a chord with the Hopway boys. Lucas's dad used to be involved in the shipping business and had a relationship with Father Jun. Side note, apparently Father Jun killed Lucas's dog when he was younger, which is kinda hilarious.
Scheiße, Hund. Ey, das verrennt.
It's a tense negotiation, but a deal is made. The Germans offer to pay 25 cents on the dollar for the silver. A celebration is held that night where Youngjun engages in a combination of sex and MMA. All seems well until Assam and Youngjun catch the Germans beating the shit out of a Chinese kid. Apparently he was stealing food. Assam and Youngjun don't like the sight of the poor boy being abused, so the Germans let him go. The next morning, the deal is finalized and the Hopway are on their way back to Chinatown with a nice bounty of silver. Everything seems good until they see the same boy from the night before tied up and dead on a wooden stake with the word thief labeled next to him. It's clearly a big fuck you from the Germans to the Hopway. Now Youngjun wants to just leave with the silver, but Assam says fuck that. His pride and emotion take over and he ends up storming the German stronghold along with Youngjun and a reluctant Father Jun.
Stupid fucking onions.
A classic Western gunfight breaks out and the Hopway trio dispatch all of the Germans, with Assam finishing off Lucas in a Mortal Kombat-like fashion in the church. The fight choreography in the church was simply amazing, Andrew Koji showing us that he's truly an elite athlete. Also, dope kill by Shannon Lee, love her appearance in this episode. Father Jun also displays some elite firearm skills, but unfortunately the old man catches a bullet to the gut, not great. The Hopway end up returning in time to save Father Jun's life and remove the bullet, but he's now completely delirious. Father Jun is basically senile now, and we don't know if this is temporary or permanent. He ends up roaming into Longzi territory with his sword looking for Longzi. Fortunately, Lee Yong is a good guy and ends up escorting Father Jun back to Hopway territory. Youngjun spends episode 7 getting more and more angry. He clearly blames Assam for Father Jun's wound, and to be honest, Youngjun is right about that. He's also clearly taken Mai Ling's warnings to heart, and he tells Yen Mi to start training 2 Hopway soldiers on how to print cash. For reference, at the beginning of episode 6, Mai Ling told Youngjun to watch out for Assam and Yen Mi, because if Yen Mi goes wrong, then they have no one else to print the cash. Youngjun ends the season clearly upset at Assam and he no longer trusts him. As for our boy Assam, he's pretty busy once he returns from the battle with the Germans. He finds out that Yen Mi has been stealing money and he tells her that she has to stop now or else he can't protect her if Youngjun finds out. He also gets invited to Mai Ling's wedding, which obviously he has to go because he's her brother. Mai Ling also tells him to bring Yen Mi as well. Assam then has a meeting with Leary. An Irish guy got jumped in Chinatown, and Leary wants Assam to hand over the men who jumped the Irish guy to prevent another riot from happening. Assam refuses, and the 2 men end up coming to a tense agreement. The Irish stay out of Chinatown, and the Chinese stay out of the pond. It's clear that most people now view Assam as the leader in Chinatown, even though Mai Ling has the most power and Youngjun is the head of the Hopway. Leary even says it himself.
I don't control Chinatown. There's a 10-foot fucking portrait on a wall says otherwise.
Assam tells Hong to put the word out that any Chinese that steps in the pond answers to Assam. Alpha male move, baby. Assam then finishes his storyline off by pulling up into Ah Toys and bitch slapping Yemi's brother for jumping the Irish guy and starting trouble. Assam lays down the law and shuts the party down at Ah Toys. Gotta mention Hong real quick. His storyline over these past 2 episodes is fairly simple. He tries to keep the peace between Youngjun and Assam, but Youngjun doesn't want to hear it. On a bright side for Hong, Marcel is staying for a few more weeks, so he's got his lover here. Otherwise, Hong is in a tough spot. He truly believes that Assam would do anything for Youngjun, but it doesn't really matter if the boss is paranoid. Alright, that's pretty much it for the Hop Way over these past 2 episodes.
For maybe the 4th episode in a row, our main discussion points on Assam are basically about his future moving forward and what he's actually going to do. He's finally got some influence and leadership. We know that he has the people behind him. It was pointed out by Leary. It was pointed out in earlier episodes as well. If push comes to shove, he may be the most recognized member of any Tong throughout Chinatown just due to his role in the fight. Weirdly enough, that whole realization in his own mind was prompted by a convo with Leary. Cool moment, but we'll touch more on that later. He's a better leader than Youngjun, and he actually cares about not only his Tong, but the people in general. Does he have the stomach to lead a Tong, though? Some of these decisions can get you into trouble if you lead with your heart solely. Doing the right thing is starting to seem less and less fashionable, especially as our season winds down here. We've talked about this one before. I'm starting to lose a little bit of hope in the idea of Assam running away with Yan Mi. It looks a lot more like she might be in some kind of imminent danger here. If your boss ever asks you to train someone else to do your job, it usually means you're gonna get a promotion or maybe you're gonna get canned.
You're fired!
What? And her boss is highly paranoid Youngjun, who's been sipping on a lot of liquor lately, so getting fired might mean something else entirely.
It's fucking bullshit!
The fact that her brother was one of the guys smacking around Irish dudes outside of bars doesn't help either, and I think there's probably another reason the writers included that detail that hasn't unfolded quite yet. I think she's on, you know how they used to have the forest fire alert system? She's way past orange. She's on red alert. She might have to get the hell out of here. In a perfect world, these two can end up all good and meet again someday far, far away from Chinatown. But that is nowhere near the next 3 episodes, nowhere near if the show gets renewed another season from now. I think she pieces out by the end of this season as long as nobody finds that counterfeit stash. With Mai Ling constantly scheming, Youngjun conceivably turning on him, and the world sort of falling apart around him, he needs to use his newfound authority to become irreplaceable, or else he's gonna spend the final 3 episodes playing by everyone else's rules. I think we're all ready to see Assam call his own shots. The Junes, in terms of Youngjun and Father June, I do not like the way that this is going and the distrustfulness and everything that's being rolled up into this controversy. This is a really common archetype among unstable leaders. If any of you guys watch HBO shows or any historical period piece, there's a little bit of paranoia that ends up clouding the head of a leader at some point, so much that they make a huge misstep, and it feels like Youngjun's definitely falling prey to that. With Father June, man, like, we need a full recovery here. It would be so disappointing for him to get brought back only to be made senile and delirious leading up to his death. We do not want another King Viserys plotline here. I want to see this guy back. I want to see him in a main role, not on the sidelines. We need him back ASAP so he can actually talk some sense into Youngjun. However, he might also be pissed at Assam for starting the gunfight that caused the hole in his side, so who's to say if it's a good or a bad thing. We also got to think about how much of Youngjun's irrational behavior is rooted in jealousy, and is he just using these things attached to Assam as a means to react? Is this just a case of little brother syndrome? Who knows? If these two go separate ways between Assam and Youngjun, I just hope that we get another action sequence with them on the same side one last time. Episode 6, while not a really meaty episode, was a classic warrior western episode, which we see throughout seasons 1 and 2 as well. Usually a pretty damn good time. Those action and fight sequences when they teamed up were insane. Nothing else on TV compares to this right now, and I really would like to see at least 1 or 2 more, if there's a breakup ahead. Hong is showing a certain level-headedness, which is much needed. This is a long way from his, yo, guys, let's bust into the jail and get out Youngjun. This is much more level-headed. When push comes to shove, though, is he going to stop Youngjun from doing something disastrous? Because that is going to take a lot of resistance here. He's shown he's a better judge of character than I thought. It's cool that he and Marcel have been able to chill without any sort of consequences. However, I don't know how long that can last given the social climate of the 1870s. I'm sure some sort of drama will erupt around that.
We interrupt this program for an important news
news announcement.
Hey, just wanted to take a quick mini break and plug a music video that I'm dropping. The song is called High, and it's my first ever official music video, so I'd appreciate it greatly if y'all could check it out. It's on my other channel called Chenny Brit, and I got the link in the description. Thank you.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
Now, because the Hop Way and Long Z are so intertwined, we always have to discuss the Long Z along with the Hop Way, even though the Long Z had a pretty quiet storyline over these past 2 episodes. As mentioned earlier, episode 6 starts off with the Long Z and Hop Way beginning their deal with the printing operation in the ice factory. Mai Ling tells Young Jun she doesn't want to be at war anymore, and then she plants a nice seed of doubt by telling Young Jun that Assam is obviously hooking up with Yenmi, and since she's the most important person in their printing operation, it can cause a lot of potential problems. Mai Ling is such a fucking demon. Mai Ling also sends out wedding invitations in episode 7, inviting both Atoy and Assam to her wedding with Lee Young. She even tells Assam to bring Yenmi. Mai Ling also has to then mediate a dispute between Atoy and another brothel owner named Ming Yu, who is under Long Z protection. Mai Ling basically forces Ming Yu to accept some money from Atoy and to leave the matter alone, but Ming Yu doesn't look satisfied. Lee Young has a pretty small role in these episodes, and we really only see him when he has to escort Father June back into Hopway territory. That's pretty much it for the Long Z.
Yeah, I mean, you make some solid points here, man. I don't see the Long Z as having been that active in the last couple episodes, probably for a reason. The way Mai Ling has been playing chess with everybody has been crazy. I like the scene with her and Atoy. This is just 2 women who have been through a ton of shit to get where they are. Reminded me of their convo at the end of season 2 after Atoy's been beaten pretty badly, but is Mai Ling playing as something or showing legitimate character development here? You always have to ask that question. She's like a Cersei Lannister light minus the incest and overall brutality. We'll finally see what she's been getting at when this wedding goes down. So far, it seems like she's using it as a classic Mai Ling move to manipulate everybody. Very on brand, but again, this is a dangerous game. She's already paid once this season. Will she pay twice? Lee Young, man, I hate that this guy is on the other side. He's moving with the maturity of a man about to get married. The real question becomes, will Kong Pak throw down a wild bachelor party? I've got my doubts. The Long Z are surprisingly lame for the amount of power they currently wield.
Okay, now it's time to talk about Chao and Lee, who have the most insane storyline in episode 6. So I'm gonna spend some extra time on this one, and I'm also gonna include Abigail, Happy Jack, and Mosley in this at the end because they're all sort of related. So let's get going. After getting ambushed by Happy Jack at the end of episode 5, both Chao and Lee wake up chained inside of a train. Happy Jack got the bounty money and sent both of them back to Georgia, where Lee must confront his own kin. Chao can tell that Lee is suffering from opium withdrawals, and he tries to get more information out of Lee. Who did he kill? Did he kill for money or love? Lee gives Chao no answers and basically shits on him for being a man with no loyalties. Chao disagrees, and he says he's a man loyal to the nature of the deal. Once you're partners with someone, race and feelings don't matter. There's actually this sad moment where Lee asks Chao if anyone back in San Fran will notice that he's missing, and Chao doesn't even hesitate and he says no.
Will anyone notice you missing?
No.
As for Lee, Abigail will notice, but he doesn't know what she can even do. Chao suggests that Abigail might be in on fucking Lee over, but Lee disagrees. Meanwhile, back in the Barbary Coast, Abigail is asking Happy Jack if he knows where Lee is, and Jack lies and says he's probably ran off. Abigail can tell that's bullshit because it's not in Lee's character. She calls Jack a loser, and Jack tells her to get the fuck out before he does some bad stuff. Things are looking really bad for our boys when the train pulls up to Georgia, and Lee's kin pulls up and extracts Chao and Lee from the train. His Aunt Violet is there along with Lee's cousins Bo and Carter. For reference, the 2 guys Lee killed back in Georgia were Aunt Violet's sons, and she plans to string Lee up to an oak tree back in Savannah, Georgia, where he used to climb as a kid. This is the same tree that she buried her boys at. They bring Chao along as well because he looks strong. Oh shit, remember Chao was a slave in Cuba for 11 years, so he's now having serious PTSD at the thought of potential slavery once again. The wagon gets stuck on the way back though, and Aunt Violet has Chao dig it out. Chao gets defiant and fights back, and Violet has Bo start to whip Chao. This triggers Lee, who intervenes, and this moment gives Chao a chance to escape. Violet and Bo go after Chao, while Carter watches over Lee. While Chao is on the run, Lee talks to Carter and tries to get through to him. It's clear that Carter is still a nice boy who doesn't have a choice but to follow Aunt Violet's orders. Lee does acknowledge that by killing Carter's brothers, Carter was forced to stay on the farm and help the family out, thereby keeping him in this toxic environment. Meanwhile, Chao outruns Violet and Bo easily, and he spits out a nail that he's been keeping hidden in his mouth. He uses the nail to break free of the shackles. Violet and Bo return empty-handed. Bo leaves to go fix the wagon, and Violet hands Carter a whip and tells him to destroy Lee. Lee keeps talking shit though, and at one point hits a serious nerve, and Violet decides to just kill him on the spot. Lee has a fucking mouth on him, man. As she's about to shoot and kill Lee, Chao comes back out of nowhere and hits Carter in the head with a shovel. Then he kills Aunt Violet. Very satisfying. Let's see a replay. Bo returns from the wagon and gets killed by Lee. Lee's gun game is seriously elite. Anyways, Carter is still alive and he points the gun at Lee and Chao. Lee tries to talk Carter out of it, but then he moves the gun towards Chao and Lee quickly snipes Carter. Brutal for Lee. By my count, he's now killed 4 of his family members. Chao does indeed help Lee bury the bodies. Chao and Lee's storyline ends up with them returning to the Barbary Coast and surprising Happy Jack. However, it's actually Abigail who ends up pulling the initial trigger. Chao finishes him off, but I give the kill to Abigail. She's now got 2 bodies so far this season. This woman is serious. However, things aren't over for Lee. Mosley has survived the shooting from Happy Jack's goons. By the way, I just want to say I fucking called Mosley still being alive in the episode 5 recap. Just want to point that out. Mosley is still going to force Lee to help him find the plates. Even though Lee's ops are now dead, he's still wanted for murder and is a criminal. I'll end this on Abigail. She has a moment where she talks to Lee about her late husband, who is Happy Jack's brother. Her husband was the opposite of Happy Jack. He was an honest man, a really hardworking man. One time when he was coming back from work, some white boys ambushed him and he got into a fight. When the cops pulled up, obviously they sided with the white guys, and basically her husband was killed. We learn a little bit about Abigail, and she basically says, in order to get along in this crooked world, you gotta be a bad man.
Lee is unfortunately still in the game because Mosley is who we thought he was. But big props to him for outdueling his family and previous trauma, though I guess you can't ever really truly defeat trauma, but that's a darker conversation for a different kind of video. And Happy Jack. It was nice to get the backstory behind Abigail's former husband because I didn't know that much about her as a character, to be honest with you. Seeing the strength that she possesses in her background was definitely cool. It's always good to fill in the blanks here. Happy Jack was incredible this season. It was hard to see him go, but if you want to build in a Lee reunion, which I think basically everybody does, I know Chen does, I know I do, so I guess I speak for just us, but probably you guys too. We needed Happy Jack out of the picture. I'd assume that people are going to be a little heated about Jack being taken out from his crew. I wouldn't consider this a happy ending yet because how many happy endings do we actually get in Warrior? Though episode 6 was chiefly centered around Lee's family drama, I do think that Chao was maybe more compelling to me in some ways. I love seeing 2 characters who gain that respect and that empathy for each other, especially when they're on such different sides. Like Chao literally just set this guy up, so it's really cool to see them start to understand one another. There are a lot of great scenes between them, and it seems that both of these guys judged each other a little too quickly, especially since both of these characters are way deeper than they appear at first. I mean, Chao is simply trying to find alliances, deals, and friends that protect him because that's all he's ever known. That's all that's ever worked for him before, so how the hell can you blame this guy? He operates in the margins. He turns a profit here, he strengthens an alliance there. It's clear that his road in life has pushed him to thinking in this way. Chen mentioned how he was enslaved in Cuba. We saw the lashings. Like, damn, this guy has been through some absolute piles of shit. The only way that he actually creates safety and thrives in a dangerous world is this defense mechanism he's created. It seems that Lee has actually cracked the same hard exterior that Assam did earlier in season 2. I really would like to see these 2 interacting more when they get back, just beyond the little that we saw of Chao in episode 7.
Now we're on to Leary and Strickland, and I mentioned them both because these guys are now in cahoots. Episode 6 starts off with Strickland taking Leary to Franklin Thayer's house for an engagement party for Thayer's daughter. Leary is uncomfortable in such a rich, snobby setting, and is immediately telling the rich business owners that they're fucking over the working class. Strickland starts showing Leary the ropes, slowly teaching him how to use leverage to get what he wants instead of brute force. Strickland tells Leary, "Watch this shit, bro," and he pulls up to Thayer. Apparently, Thayer's daughter hooked up with one of the servants and had a boy that Thayer raised as his own to protect his daughter and family from humiliation. Strickland will reveal this info unless Thayer drops out of the race. God damn, Strickland is a fucking menace, man. Leary is curious why Strickland wants Thayer out of the race, and he explains that since Thayer is a good man, he can't possibly be mayor. Strickland needs someone who he can corrupt. The dynamic duo then pull up on Buckley and tell him that he's basically a loser with zero riz who would never win the race unless Thayer backs out. Fortunately, Thayer is now conveniently backing out. In exchange, Buckley has to look out for Strickland's interests. Buckley obviously doesn't like it, but he has no other choice if he wants to win. In episode 7, the Donahue boys are being dumbasses trying to steal from a grocer in Chinatown, and they get caught and thrown in jail. Their father begs Leary to get them out of jail, and he shows up to the police station to try and get them out. However, since Bill is no longer on the force, Leary doesn't have any pull. Atwood doesn't give a fuck, so he refuses to help Leary out, making them both enemies. An Irish guy gets jumped in Chinatown in retaliation, and soon the Irish are ready to riot and storm Chinatown again. Leary barely controls the mob and gets them to back down, and he then marches into Chinatown to meet with Assam. The two end up reaching a tentative deal for peace, and as mentioned earlier, it's pretty simple. The Irish stay in the pond, and the Chinese stay in Chinatown. I gotta say, Leary gives an incredible fucking speech at the Banshee. Dean Jagger does a great job with this monologue.
Day after day, defending you against men who see you as thugs and hooligans.
Okay, let's quickly cover Buckley's storyline over these last 2 episodes. Fairly simple. He's on track to lose the mayor race, but Strickland's power play to force Thayer to back out puts Buckley in prime position to win. He's now in Strickland's pocket, and that's definitely going to pose some issues down the line. But for now, Buckley looks to be the winner. Thayer actually pulls up to Buckley in episode 7 to basically call him a piece of shit. Buckley's response is actually pretty good though. He says Thayer is soft and inherited all of his money, so he never had to work for shit. Meanwhile, Buckley had to fight for everything he has, so men like Buckley will always beat the soft men like Thayer. I get what Buckley's saying, but it's not like he really did anything this time. Anyways, cold ass lines from Buckley. He then celebrates with some doggy style with Catherine Archer. Big Buck is starting to gain some confidence, man.
Me, Alexander McQueen, he was keeping me stylish. Now that's real.
Turning our attention back to the scrubs at City Hall, Leary, after being without some true Leary moments in that last episode, it was really good to see him again, man. Hands down, the best acting I've seen from him since the show started. The delivery he had on those lines was MVP level.
This time, I'll have to tell you your shit out of luck.
These guys were basically about to repeat the same dumb mistakes of the end of season 2 and just run it back again and expect a different result. To give credit where it's due, Leary has turned into a huge linchpin of the community. The points he's made about the Irish definitely bear repeating. I mean, they were still an underclass at this time in history compared to earlier immigrants in the US. There's still plenty to lose if they keep starting fights in Chinatown and develop bad reputation amongst industry leaders here. He's just looking out for his people. Very similar to Assam, honestly. That convo was powerful to me on that respect. As imperfect as Leary is, he's trying to help his community get by. The position that Assam can potentially hold is not so different. The empathy he feels for the Chinatown community will definitely drive his decision making forward. I think we all saw that almost handshake as well. I wonder what's going to come with the tension between him and Atwood. I know there's going to be a jam that only Leary's Irish influence can solve as the show progresses, since he's gaining so much pull in his community. But Leary is definitely not the kind of guy to forget or forgive, unless you're the Donahue boys who are operating with stupidity that's reaching Homer Simpson and Chris Moltisanti levels.
Hallelujah.
Strickland, essentially, you know, if we're going to keep these Simpsons references going, kind of the Mr. Burns of this in a way. What does he have up his sleeve? Is there another plot or scheme he's going to run here? Of course there is. This guy sucks. He's definitely going to get involved in the labor space now that he's delivered the goods to Buckley. The Buckley saga with Thayer ended in a sort of predictable way. He was just down to get dirty, man, and Thayer was not. Buckley gets it done with a little help from some familiar faces. How does the point he made to Thayer actually resonate? Is he just talking smack? For all of Leary's shortcomings, Buckley has like 100 more, but the guy is definitely a grinder. We can't take that away from him. It's the way that he stays in the game when people like Blake were too dense and people like Thayer were too soft. He's a self-made man who just keeps on breaking dry streak after dry streak. He's going to have to make good on a lot of promises now, though. He really doesn't like being in people's pockets, but he is now in a couple people's pockets.
All right, let's talk about Big Bill real quick. He starts working for Horace, and on the first day, things start going bad. Bill was under the impression that he was getting an office gig, but Horace has other plans. Horace doesn't want to give anyone else the impression that he's favoring Bill, so he starts him off with grunt work like everyone else.
If my men were to see me give a family member an unfair advantage, they lose all respect for me.
Anyways, Bill is too damn old for this grunt work, and he's slow at it, and his body is damn near breaking down from it.
Son of a bitch.
Horace doesn't care and immediately starts ripping into Bill for being slower than the others. Hey, quick shout out to actor Kevin Otto, who actually plays Horace, for showing some support in our last video. We really appreciate that. They always say when you dislike a character in a show or movie, that means the actor is doing a great job. And boy oh boy, is our man Kevin Otto doing a great job of portraying Horace as this smug dickhead who seems to be power tripping on Bill.
I'll do better tomorrow. That's the spirit, Bill.
Hey, we got love for Kevin, but goddamn, is Horace an asshole.
Big Bill, how you doing? Turns out life after the Force is not as sweet as we once pictured. Bill's reaction to his first day with Horace reminds me of the time I pulled up to one of my grandfather's contracting sites. I figured I was about to spend the summer shooting nail guns and rolling paint on the walls, just chilling with the guys. First thing he did when I pulled up was hand me a paint scraper and point to a stack of roofing shingles, and then my job for the rest of the day was basically to scrape old paint off the house's exterior and lug 70-pound bags of shingles up the ladder to the roof. That was some rough shit. Gotta start from the bottom, Bill, but Horace, man, do him some favors. I don't even know if this'll last. Someone's gotta give. Either he works his way up and there's a connection drawn between their business and the upcoming labor contracts, or he quits in a fiery rage and joins up with Lee.
Alright, let's finish off with Atoy. Running the brothel always comes with issues, and this time it's another brothel owner named Ming Yu who causes trouble. Ming Yu has lost a lot of the girls working for him due to the police raids. Those same girls ended up on Nellie's vineyard, and obviously when the vineyard was destroyed, those girls returned to Chinatown, but this time they're working for Atoy. Ming Yu isn't happy with this and tries to fucking kill Atoy. This guy's not fucking around, man, Jesus Christ. Atoy survives with the help of her massive bouncer, but this tension isn't over. This results in a mediation meeting at Mai Ling's house. Ming Yu works in Long Z territory, so Mai Ling has to be involved. Atoy gives Ming Yu some cash as compensation, but she doesn't return the girls back to Ming Yu. Mai Ling says that the bulls were responsible for Ming Yu losing his girls, and it has nothing to do with Atoy. Obviously, Ming Yu isn't happy about this at all, and he almost attacks Atoy again. Mai Ling has to raise her voice to get Ming Yu to back down and accept the deal.
Sit down.
I still don't think this shit is over. Later on, Atoy goes on a walk with Mai Ling, where she receives the wedding invite.
I don't know if you've heard, but I'm getting married.
I did. Congratulations.
You consider yourself invited.
Atoy also gives Mai Ling some game on survival and acceptance in America. I do have to mention that later on in episode 7, we see Lai staking out Strickland by herself. Ooh, not sure that's a great idea.
We see new drama in the brothel game through Atoy. She seems to be operating on a way higher level than the rest of the market though. How long can she protect Lai? Lai has not moved past what happened at the vineyard. Atoy rushing into this revenge plot doesn't sound like her, but if Lai drags her in, does she really have a choice? I don't think it's going to end well if Lai keeps on going solo or even attacks at the start of the next episode. I hope she's just staking out. That would also be another reason for an attack or tension towards Chinatown from the politicians and the rest of the ducks. They would eat that up in a heartbeat, and it would be framed as an unprovoked attack by a member of the Chinese community on a member of the upper class. My huge hope for next week is that Mai Ling's wedding isn't a distraction or a front for something more insidious that happens while our main characters like Assam and Atoy are preoccupied. The element of surprise is definitely there for the taking in the background. You know she's up to no good. Let's hope everybody ends up safe.
Anyways, appreciate everyone for tuning in and watching this video. Road to 1,000 subscribers is underway, and it means a ton to us that y'all watch our content. More on the way. Catch y'all later.